What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of China Update, where I provide you guys with the most up-to-date political, economic, and geostrategic analysis on the world's number 2 economy. My name is Tony. Let's jump in. Happy Thursday, everybody. I hope you're all doing well. Yesterday, on Wednesday, the ancient northern Chinese city, famous for its terracotta warriors, Xi'an, has imposed a strict lockdown on all 13 million of its urban residents. The order was hastily introduced after 52 new cases stemming from the Delta variant were discovered in the city on Wednesday, with the local government posting online that from midnight the next day, all households may only, quote, send one household member outside once every 2 days to purchase necessities, end quote, with all others ordered to remain indoors. Xi'an has now joined a growing list of cities and regions across the country with varying levels of restrictions to maintain the official zero-case policy, although China has not had a day of zero cases for months now, with at least a few dozen of new cases being discovered across the country each day. For example, on Tuesday, the southern city of Dongxing ordered its 200,000 residents to isolate at home after the discovery of just one case there. The shutdown will certainly have an economic effect, though it likely will not be as disruptive as the long Wuhan lockdown from early 2020 or a similar lockdown in the more prosperous eastern regions like in Zhejiang or in Guangdong. Xi'an accounts for just under 1% of China's GDP, and the city is home to research and manufacturing centers for semiconductors, aerospace, and other high-tech industries. Xi'an residents have also joined millions of others from different regions facing tight travel restrictions, with more than 85% of flights to the city from its main airport being grounded since yesterday. The city is now in the process of testing its 13 million residents, and it will likely do multiple rounds of testing. All non-essential businesses and public spaces have been ordered to close, and people have been ordered to work from home. Okay, next up, at a recent economic development forum in the southern Chinese city of Sanya, Zhang Baijia, former deputy director of the Party History Research Center, a fairly high position, made remarks about the United States not often heard in Beijing's current triumphalist zeitgeist. He warned Beijing policymakers that the United States may appear to be in decline, but that it is resilient enough to bounce back. Quote, the US's role as a global leader is declining, but, from historical experience, the US is also a country with a strong capacity for self-regulation. By this he means self-correction. So it needs to be seen whether there will be an adjustment, self-correction, in the United States in the future. It is important that we do not pin the hopes for our development on the inability of the United States to solve its own problems. End quote. His remarks from the closed-door forum were published on state media on Tuesday. He also called on China to carefully balance its national security and opening up goals, expressing, quote, if we magnify national security too much, it will be practically impossible for us to remain open to the outside world. But if we do not pay attention to the issue of national security, it may bring us very great harm, end quote. Meanwhile, this week, the United States has introduced new sanctions against Chinese entities. This time, the US government added 34 more Chinese companies and research institutes to an export blacklist for allegedly diverting US goods to Iran's military programs. The entry list bans the export of American technology to entities on the list unless the exporter receives a government license. Last week, we discussed several sets of sanctions against Chinese companies primarily engaged in the technology sector based in Xinjiang. Okay, now let's go through several major economic and financial developments for the world's number 2 economy. Quickly, if you're enjoying the episode, don't forget to hit that like button. It's the only way this video can be shown to new people. And if you're watching this for the first time, you're getting some value from the episode, maybe consider subscribing, hit that bell notification, and you'll have the most up-to-date analysis when I release these every day. Okay, let's move on. On Monday, prices of carbon dioxide equivalents in China reached a 4-month high. The price jumped 5.4% from the previous day to close at 49 RMB, approximately $7.71 per ton on Monday. The jump was caused as companies rushed to buy carbon credits before the end of the first compliance period, which we've discussed in previous videos. This week, China's securities regulator announced that China is planning to expand a program linking the Shanghai and London stock exchanges to incorporate entities in Shenzhen, Switzerland, and Germany in order to, quote, open China's capital markets and facilitate cross-border investment and financing, end quote. Under the Shanghai-London Stock Connection Program, which was launched back in 2019, eligible companies listed either on the Shanghai or the London Exchange are allowed to issue depository receipts, allowing investors to gain greater exposure to companies listed elsewhere. We're now learning this week as well, unsurprisingly, that China's increasingly isolationist policies are causing shipping and logistics costs to skyrocket. This week, Chinese financial media outlet Xi'an media reported that, as of Monday, the shipping rate for Chinese exports to Southeast Asia, for example, jumped to nearly $4,000 per container, representing a spike in shipping costs equivalent to 10 times the pre-pandemic rate. The report expresses, quote, "Costs started surging in early November and more than doubled within a month, as there have been few ships available. A shipment of farm machinery was delayed 2 weeks, during which freight rates skyrocketed," end quote. This week, economists with the Japanese bank Nomura published a research note warning of social instability risks if Chinese workers, particularly migrant workers, are not paid during the current Evergrande housing crisis, expressing, quote, "Of all types of debt, developers and their construction partners are especially under pressure for repaying deferred wages, because failing to do so could trigger social instability." Quote, according to the Nomura calculations, about 52 million migrant workers earn their living in the construction sector. And last up, let's look at the Evergrande housing crisis itself. In a great investigatory piece by Chinese financial media outlet Caixin, the paper looked into a trend that we have been speculating about for several months now. That is, as the central government's crackdown on the housing sector continues, there would be pushback at the local government level from local officials that become concerned about unacceptable slowdown. The Caixin report looks at the northeastern Rust Belt province of Heilongjiang, which borders Russia, where on Monday the Department of Housing and Urban Rural Development held a meeting to, quote, "pull out all steps to restore the real estate industry," end quote, only to find that the announcement was deleted from the government website the next day without explanation. More evidence of a policy friction between central government economic policymakers and regulators and local government actors. That particular region, Heilongjiang, has been experiencing both economic and demographic collapse for several years now already, so Beijing's property developer crackdown hit the region especially hard. Official data shows that in the first 11 months of the year, property sales by floor space and by value in the province fell 9% and 18.3% year on year versus the nationwide rate of 4.8% and 8.5% respectively. Meanwhile, during the same period, according to data from the China Index Academy, residential land sales in the province fell an astonishing 61% year on year by land area. On China Update, we've been saying from day one that one of the biggest barriers for Beijing policymakers to implement its property developers deleveraging campaign would be local governments themselves and the property owning urban middle class. These are powerful groups, and as such, I expect more policy easing in the coming year. Now, while we're on Evergrande, also this morning, that is Thursday morning, shares in China Evergrande Group opened up 2.1%. This is likely in response to the property developer announcing that its risk management committee will, quote, actively engage, end quote, with its creditors. We remember that the committee was set up earlier this month with the local government and includes many senior officials from state-owned companies. And finally, according to analysis with Daiwa Capital Markets Hong Kong Limited today, home buyer sentiment in China may not improve until the second quarter of next year at the earliest. And the note explained that not all developers will benefit from looser credit conditions going forward. Expect more pain for Chinese property developers for at least several more months, if they are able to even survive it. Hey guys, I'd love to hear what you thought about some of the updates we covered in today's episode, so throw your comments below. Always love hearing from you. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.